and welcome to Easthampton School Committee meeting tonight. This meeting is being recorded by the Easthampton Public Access Cable, Channel 5 TV. And especially we thank Tim, our technician this evening. If any of you are interested in volunteering for Access Cable TV, please call Kathy at 413-203-1360. I understand that they're always anxious and willing to have new volunteers. So get on that. And now, Superintendent Follinsby, announcements.
I'd be happy to. The next school committee meetings are September 10th and 24th. Teachers and staff will begin the new school year with 3 professional development days on August 27th, 28th, and 29th. Students' first day of school is Tuesday, September 3rd. Students in grades 10, 11, and 12 only will have a delayed opening. All other students will begin school at the regular time. There's a half day of school on Wednesday, September 18th, due to Teacher Professional Development Day.
All right, so it's starting up again.
It is, very soon.
Okay,
And we're excited.
good, good. Correspondence, Ms. Lodano.
None.
No letters, no gifts?
No gift. Oh, no gifts.
No gifts. The next part of our meeting is called Public Speak. So if there are any of you out there this evening that wish to speak to a topic that is not on our agenda, please come forward to the podium, give your name and your topic of choice.
Hello, my name's Tim Luce, the principal of the Maple School, and I just have a quick little story I wanted to share with the school committee tonight. If you're familiar with the Maple School, you know that the building sits in the front of the lot, and then behind the lot is our playground, which is primarily covered with asphalt. And as are many of the asphalt surfaces in the district, ours was looking rather worn out. We had some pretty major potholes where the asphalt was gone and was down to the dirt. And as is the case with those kinds of things, and kids, they would get bigger and bigger and bigger. The children, especially this summer, the preschool began to use them as sandboxes as they would play in the dirt within this big pothole, and then it would take little chunks of asphalt, and they would, so every day they would grow and grow and grow. So through the efforts of our custodian and Pete Roy and the maintenance department, and working with the public works department here in town, I'm happy to report that over the last week, they had the DPW came in from the town and chopped up all the leftover areas that were in rough shape around these potholes and repaved it so that it's beautiful now. It's nice and smooth and much safer. It's not the whole area, which would be a huge job, but this area where these big potholes were done is just much different. And it's just, I wanted to bring it to your attention because it's an example of the departments really working well together and kind of going above and beyond to help the school department. So I thought it was worth mentioning.
Thank you very much.
And could I add something to that as well? I just know that last year the DPW was wonderful in helping us pave the Whitebrook parking lot. And they just go out of their way to work with us on trying to do as much as they can and help us, with all of these paving issues that we have that are so expensive. So we are very grateful to them for that. And I don't know if this is the right place, but I want to tell a little story here too. During public speak. I was in a local drugstore this week, and I ran into a gentleman, an older gentleman, who came up to me and he asked me if I was on the television cameras. And at first I said, well, no. I thought maybe he was talking about the security system in the drugstore, and I was like, no, I don't think so. And he goes, no, in the schools. And I said, oh yes, that is me. So he went on to tell me that he is 85 years old and he has, I believe it's great-grandchildren, maybe it's grandchildren, forgive me if it's just grandchildren, in our schools. And he said, at my age, I never thought that I would be so interested in the schools. And he said, I don't miss a single school committee meeting. And so I just want to say a big thank you to him for watching the school committee meetings and taking such an interest. And I know we have many other families and many other community members who do as well. And so I know that I'm speaking for all of us when I say how much we appreciate that you do tune in and watch what's going on in the schools and are interested in our school department. So.
All right, good. Nice to know there's someone out there.
Yes.
All right, anyone else for public speak? Then I believe that we have a presentation, our new administrators, correct?
Yes, we do. I wanted to present our two new administrators this evening, and I'm going to ask each of them to come up and just say a few words and introduce themselves and say whatever they'd like to say to you as school committee members so you can get to know them a little bit better. First is Meredith Police. She's our interim principal at Whitebrook Middle School. Many of you probably recognize Meredith because she's been a very active part of our school community. But Meredith, I'll let you say a few words.
Okay. Good evening. I just want to thank the committee and Superintendent Follansby for this opportunity. I'm very, very excited about the upcoming school year. And I didn't know that I was going to have to say a few words tonight, so I didn't prepare. But I am very excited. Our staff is all ready. People have been in the building the last 2 weeks and really helping me do what I need to do. So we're ready and excited.
Okay.
We're keeping Meredith very busy.
Yes, absolutely.
But she is, every time I talk with her on the phone, she's excited about what's going on in the school. So we're delighted
Absolutely.
to have you, Meredith,
Thank you.
as our interim principal.
Well, I know one middle school student who's convinced that Miss Police can and will be everywhere at once because she can get
yes.
around the whole building.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if he's worried about that or if he thinks that's good news, but either way, the word is out.
That's a good word.
I just wanted to add, I think we are so fortunate, we are so blessed to have Meredith Police in our district and have her in this role. And I just am thrilled, absolutely thrilled that she's going to take on that position for the year ahead. And we just couldn't ask for a better situation. We couldn't ask for a better candidate. And
Thank you so much.
thank you so much for being there for us.
It certainly has helped the transition go very smoothly.
That's great.
And now, Amy Napolitano, who is our new principal of Center and Pepin schools. Amy?
All right.
Hi, how are you? Like Nancy said, I'm Amy Napolitano, and I'm the new principal at Center Pepin. And I have been trying to figure everything out, and it's going really well. But it's a lot to learn. A lot of new people. Everybody I've met has been really wonderful. I've enjoyed the last just couple of days of working with Allison Mabello, the new assistant principal, and she's just fantastic and a wealth of knowledge for the district, which all of you, I'm sure, know already. But I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited about learning all there is to learn about the school and the schools in the district, and what we need to do to move forward, and I'm looking forward to a really great year. I wasn't prepared to make a speech or anything, but this is what we have. I do want to mention though that Alice and I will be available on the playground on next Thursday, the 28th, from 3:30 to 5:30 for any parents who are interested in just stopping by and saying hello. I know we'll get to know people better as they come in, as we meet with them during open house.
Or Thursday? Isn't Thursday the 29th?
Yes.
Sorry. Thursday the 29th.
Thursday.
Yes, it is definitely Thursday the 29th, excuse me, from 3:30 to 5:30. And it's just an informal kind of thing. We'll both be out on the playground, so if people want to come by and say hello, bring their kids to meet with us just to say hi. Like I said, open house is a much more formal kind of introduction, but at least we'll be there to recognize faces and say a quick hello. So that's coming up, and I look forward to working with all of you as well. So thank you.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. All right, I wished I was starting back to school.
I know. Those first back to school days are so much fun.
I know what they are. I want those new school supplies. All right, enough, right? Okay, What about our subcommittee reports?
Nothing to report from finance.
Okay, and I believe, thank you, Finance. I believe we have a policy review report.
We do. We met last Tuesday, I believe, and I do need to submit minutes for that meeting. Basically to review the wellness policy, and what you have in your packets is the newly revised policy, the state law around that new revision, and the current policy. Not a whole lot of changes in the revisions. Most of it is just language to bring us up to date with that new state law around school nutrition. What we want to have tonight is an acceptance of the first reading of the JLC wellness policy to put that into place.
All right.
Move
Any-
to accept the first reading. Oh,
Go ahead.
right. Sorry. Move to accept the first reading of the JLC wellness policy.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the first reading of the JLC wellness policy, aye? Aye. Opposed or abstained? Then first reading is accepted. And that's it for
That's it for my
our
report.
policy. CES update or
No report, we haven't had a meeting.
Okay. All right, I don't think there's any other that comes under that category. Superintendent Follansbee.
So I'd like to go over the updated strategic plan with school committee members now. Does anybody need a paper copy? It's a little bit easier sometimes to
Did anyone down
Please.
see
here?
it.
Please.
I'll send some down.
Sure, fine. Please.
Thank you.
You don't have one?
I'm going to share one with you.
Okay.
I don't need one.
Oh,
No, no, this is
I've got one, that's all right, Nancy.
Okay, all right. So the leadership team worked with me in in July, to look at our strategic plan, to think about our initiatives and what we had accomplished to date. You know, our strategic plan was initially a 3-year plan. And last year we brought some of our future initiatives back up into the plan. So this year we looked at where we were with all of our initiatives and you know what we needed to do still, and at the new initiatives that we were going to bring up and work through. So just to remind everyone that our strategic objectives are student achievement. We will improve student performance and close the achievement gap. Educator Excellence, we will develop Educator Excellence that provides quality instruction to meet diverse student needs. And Resource Alignment, we will direct financial, human, time, and community resources to effectively meet district objectives. And so if we start with the student achievement column, we had as number 1, build a continuum of math instruction K-12. We have partially completed this initiative. We do have a continuum that exists K-6, and we have another continuum that exists 7 through 12, but we haven't bridged the gap between 6th and 7th, so that's what we're going to be working on this year. The second one is to build a continuum of writing instruction K-12. This is not completed. We really spent a lot of time on the math instruction, and but it's an area of focus for 2013-14. Much of our professional development this year is going to be centered on this. We're excited. We've got the Luce Calkins writing program in place K-5, I believe it is. And some good professional development all through the year to help teachers learn how to use that program effectively. It's a wonderful model of writing instruction, so we're very excited about that. Number 3 is develop and implement common assessments. Partially completed and an area of focus for this year. We have a number of really wonderful assessments throughout the district, but we want to make sure that we have the assessments consistently throughout the district. So we're going to work on what we've done already and take it that next step further. Number 5 is analyze, assess, and redesign intervention strategies and expand alternative programming for all students. And this is partially completed. I didn't list all of the things that were in place because it was a long list. We did put a lot of targeted interventions into place this year. Shirley Gilfather, our Director of Curriculum, worked with building principals and put a number of interventions into place that we have some data that indicates that they've been very effective for us. But we want to continue to do this to make sure that we have the targeted interventions that we need for all students. And for number 6, assess current transition practices, ensure systems are in place to support students and families. We feel we've completed this. We have transition programs that exist in kindergarten, entering children into kindergarten, into grade 4, going from grade 5 to grade 6, and from grade 8 to grade 9. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't continue to improve on those programs every year, but the transition programs are in place at all those critical areas of transition in our district. Number 7, integrate the use.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask
Sure.
a question? Given the presentation that we had earlier this spring, I just think it's worth noting that you also have implemented an effective system for the transition for students into their career and college paths as well. So
Yes.
though it's not a transition within the system, it's one of the most important transitions, and we do have folks who are working really hard and continue to be working to improve the career and college transition that our graduates undergo.
Good point, Peter, and we'll add that to the strategic plan. So number 7 is integrate the use of 21st century skills in curriculum instruction and assessment. Partially completed, but we've made some really good steps. The new technology at the high school has just done an amazing job in helping us meet this particular initiative. It's led to increased ability to integrate those 21st century skills. We're still getting used to using all of that technology and integrating it into instruction, but when we go in the classrooms, we see such high engagement of students and such really facile use of the technology by our teachers. So we're thrilled about that. And technology is integrated into other schools as funding allows. You know, we do have interactive whiteboards, smart boards in all of our schools, not in all classrooms. We have document cameras. We certainly have the projectors that can be used to project from computers, but not as consistently as we would like. Certainly not like what we have at the high school, but that's a dream come true. So we're continuing to work on that. Number 8, provide safe and supportive school environments. And you can see that I have written down all the different ways that we've worked in our district. And back when Title IV was still in place and they did reviews of Title IV was a grant fund that supported safe and supportive school environments. You know, we got a superior rating on that because of the different programs and elements that we put into place. I'm also happy to announce, I think we've talked about this earlier, but you know, we're installing locks on all the elementary and middle school classroom doors, another safety procedure. We're always looking for ways to upgrade what we believe is a very safe and supportive school environment, and we're very excited about that. Number 9, vertically align curriculum K-12 with the Common Core. Partially completed. The curriculum alignment will be completed this year. We've gone a long way in terms of aligning, but we have a little bit left to do. That will finish this year. So we added the last 2, which are to expand opportunities for enrichment for all students. Now, this doesn't mean that we haven't worked on this. We certainly have. We've added AP courses at the high school, and we have an enrichment program in our elementary and middle schools, and we're always looking for other opportunities for our students. Certainly the We the People initiative was a way to bring enrichment to our students. So we have many things going on in terms of enrichment, but we want to keep moving in that direction. And number 11, empower students to become partners in their learning, and you know, we are continuing to do that, and I think I need the other side of this one too. Excuse me, I think there's one on the other side, and I just made a one-sided copy. Oh, not on yours either. Hold on. Does anyone have the two-sided copy? Oh well.
Do you have the two-sided
It's not
copy?
it's not in the electronic copy either.
It's not in the electronic copy either? Well, we will talk about that one at the next meeting then. There were two others on the other side, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what they are. So we will talk about those at the next meeting. In terms of the Educator Excellence, unless anyone out there in the audience, no, all my administrators are going, I don't remember either, but they were new. At any rate, because they're new, because we haven't really focused in on them. Strategic objectives, Educator Excellence. Our first one was review common components of unit and lesson planning and align with state evaluation system. This is completed. Components have been identified and aligned with the educator evaluation system. Number 2, use data from formative and summative assessments to identify student need and drive instructional practice. Partially completed. Data from formative and summative assessments is used throughout the district, but again, just not consistently. And so maybe assessments are used at a grade level. Everyone's using assessments, but they may not be consistent assessments. So we want to have a consistent set of assessments in place used consistently. So that's an area of focus for this year. 3, to develop systems to collect and analyze data. Again, partially completed. We did a little data teamwork last year, but this year we're really putting a focus on that. We had data team training last week for our data teams at each building along with their administrators. There was some wonderful discussions about student data. We were talking about, the MCAS data that's still embargo, but some wonderful discussions about district data and how we could create action plans to address areas that we wanted to address based on that data. And this is something that will be ongoing during the school year. We're also piloting Edwin, which is the DESE data system, and we haven't really gotten into that. That will be this year, so Shirley Gilfeather will be doing a presentation for you on that. Number 4 is create a professional development plan that aligns with strategic objectives. Shirley Gilfeather has certainly done that every year and will continue to do that again this year. Probably at a September meeting, she'll do a presentation for you on what our professional development plan is this year. Number 5, explore ways to enhance collaboration among all district educators to improve student achievement. This is ongoing. We are trying to plan time for collaboration throughout the schools. Schedules have been revised at the middle school to enable to do this. Elementary principals have worked on this. At the high school, there are team leader meetings and curriculum meetings where our educators can collaborate to work on professional development and work on improving learning for all students. Number 6, develop and implement a district-wide teacher and administrator evaluation system aligned with the state evaluation standards. Certainly, we devoted a lot of time to that last year, and we have completed it. We continue to refine it and make it better, but we feel like we're in good stead. In fact, when the district review people from the state came, they were impressed with how much we had been able to implement in our district. And we keep hearing that over and over again. You've actually done it. And some districts are still working on the contract language and the collaborative agreement. So we're pleased with that. The 3 new initiatives that we brought into this objective are develop and implement district-wide hiring protocols. We have district-wide hiring protocols, but what we want to do is create a set of guidelines that we use, and also think about are there ways that we want to improve our hiring protocols. I think we have good, strong hiring protocols, but it is something that we wanted to take a look at district-wide so that we have more uniformity. Number 8, redesign new teacher induction program to support and retain high-quality staff. Shirley Gilfeather's begun doing that already. We have a number of new teachers joining our system this year. We're excited about that, and we will do a presentation on that at the next school committee meeting, because we're still hiring teachers, as a matter of fact. So, but we're very, very excited about the new staff who are coming to join us this year. And number 9, redefine walkthrough practices to align with strategic objectives in the educator evaluation system. We had a walkthrough procedure, but it really was not aligned with the way we're doing evaluation now. So we as a leadership team will take a look at that this year and think about how we align our practices with a new model system. And the last column is resource alignment, and there are only 4 initiatives here. 2 we've been working on. The first, assess alignment of current resources and allocate all resources to support strategic objectives. Every time we go through a budget building process, we think about our strategic plan and how we're going to make sure that the resources that we have are aligned. And number 2, identify needs and secure additional resources to support strategic objectives. Ongoing through application and acquisition of grant funds, and clearly we tried the override last year. So, we continue to look for ways to bring more resources into the district. And 3, engage stakeholders to expand educational opportunities for all students. And, we're going to add more of a focus to this. So this would be thinking about all stakeholders in the community and how we can bring them in to expand educational opportunities for our students. We've done this in pockets throughout the district, but I think the more connections we make with the community, the stronger our schools will be, and we're excited about working on that. And the last one, number 4, examine time as a resource to maximize its sufficient and effective use. And we are, as I say, we're looking at our schedules again this year to maximize time on learning, and trying to think creatively about how we do use our time as effectively as possible. And that's a recap, except for those 2 that were on the back. So,
Nancy?
Yes.
Just one thing for the people who are out there listening. Who makes up your leadership team?
Good question, and I thank you for asking that question. So the leadership team really are the administrators of the district. So it's all the building principals and all the assistant principals, as well as the director of curriculum, the technology director, and the director of special education. So it's really our leadership team that works together on building success.
Great.
Any other questions? And the updated strategic plan will be on the website, so folks at home, you can check it there, and we will have those other 2 pieces on there at that point too.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. And you're still on.
Yes, so now I'm going to call on the mayor to talk a little bit about the FY 2014 school spending estimate, and he can take any questions from anyone.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So many of you have seen this already. There are 2 annual reports that come out of my office. One is at the beginning of the fiscal year, estimating how much money's been provided in the budget, which is what this is for the FY14 budget. And the other, starting last year, actually comes from the finance director, recapping the actual spending. So taking the data that's provided here, and if you read through this, you'll see that some items are really actual numbers, and so we estimate, for example, how much it'll cost to provide health insurance for retired and active school employees. At the end of the year, that number will be solidified because we'll have paid the bills and we'll know, and so that's provided to the school department primarily for 2 reasons. First is to live up to a bargain that was made between municipal government and school leadership back when Proposition 2.5 was instituted, and the beginning of the requirements for net school spending. There were, in this community, many meetings between school leadership and what was town leadership at the time to hammer out what exactly is the municipal support for education. And so this stuff goes back 25, 30 years. It has not really been effectively updated. There are a few obvious things that probably could be included. We haven't really gone down that road. For example, the office space that's provided to the school administration is not included as support for education in any way. There was a time up until 2003 when the school department supported their own office space. And so when we made that change in structure, we didn't bother adding it to these numbers. The critical piece for this at the time was the ability for the city to prove that it is meeting the minimum spending requirements. And up until 1995, we just barely met the minimum net spending requirements for education in Massachusetts. And so this was a very critical piece, especially the recap for the closed year, because that's the information that the school's business administration, so in our case now Andy, would provide in the report that went to the Department of Secondary Education to say this is what was expended for education in Easthampton School District for fiscal 2013. The details are fairly self-explanatory. If you have particular questions, I'll be happy to answer them. There is a spreadsheet about halfway through the document that looks very much like a page out of the city's budget. It is, in fact, page 2 of the school section of the budget, updated to the numbers that were actually passed by the city council. There are 2 different kinds of spending. Most of you know this. There's net spending and non-net spending. Depending upon where a community came into the practice of providing health insurance for its retired school staff. In some communities, that's considered net spending. In Easthampton, because of the way that the regulations have been established by the state, it's considered non-net spending. The theory, and I can't speak for the people that created the regulations, and these rules have been in place for many years, the theory was that when net spending was implemented and this minimum net spending requirement was implemented, if you were paying for that benefit, you would get to claim it as a net spending benefit. Easthampton did not at one time provide health insurance payments to retirees. And that's partly, I mean, you can see, look in the union contracts, there are clauses in the union contracts for school employees that reflect that. These bonus payments at the end were really intended to sort of make that transition a little easier. We have for many years now provided health insurance for retirees, but in our case it's recorded as a non-net expense, and that's according to the state's regulations. In total, there's about $20.7 million worth of spending in the FY14 budget to support education. That is broadly supporting education, everything from the actual money that the school committee gets to administer in their budget, to the money we pay for charter and choice on the state cherry sheet, to the funds that we pay for employee services. And there are some fairly small amounts that go to offset some of the operating costs to manage the operations of the computer network that's used by the school department for business purposes, the payroll and accounting software, the support of the treasurer to write checks, that sort of thing, relatively small amounts. So we're about $700,000 or so above the state's minimum requirement for net spending. And then on top of that, there's the additional non-net spending that is recorded the way it's recorded here in Easthampton. Had we had health insurance in place for retirees prior to the regulations being promulgated, we'd be about 1.2. But in our case, we don't get to count that extra $500,000 as net spending. Still remains, and I think you probably recall this from the budget process, that $20.7 million is approximately 67% of the available general revenue that the city has to spend. Very briefly, there really are 2 sorts of pots of money that are available. There's general fund revenue. That's revenue from all sources that can be spent for any purpose. And then there's enterprise revenue. That's revenue that is specifically set aside to support the operation of water and sewer enterprises in Easthampton. And so the money is derived from rates paid by citizens and businesses for water and sewer services. And under law, because we created an enterprise, a self-supporting operation, it can only be used for enterprise purposes. There is a slight offset in this budget to recognize the water and sewer consumption. And so there is a little bit of enterprise support to the net spending number here, but fairly insignificant. Madam Chairman.
Mike, I know you said it, but could you just say it one more time?
Sure.
What's the difference between, as far as the city goes, the non-net spending and the net spending? Because I thought it was non-net meant we weren't spending the money.
No. So it's all expended, but the state has certain rules about what counts as as money that's expended to educate children. So, and I'm trying to
Right,
make
okay.
it boil it down as simply as I can. So, for example, the state does not believe that the cost of transporting children to the schools is a part of their education. And so, in any community across the Commonwealth, the cost of transportation is not considered a net education spending
Got it.
expense. It's a sort of a double-edged sword. We used to get some additional assistance for transportation in school districts, individual school districts, and regional schools get transportation funding for their purposes. When the budgets got tight, the regional school transportation support was reduced. The school district, the individual school district, the city school district support was eliminated. A lot of the transportation support is coming back to regional schools. None of it's come back to individual school districts. One of the reasons that I'm interested in higher office is that these rules and these formulas are created in the legislature. They're administered through a state administration, but the law that allows the administration to administer really does set most of these standards. And so it's been nearly 20 years since the education formulas and the process has been
Right.
looked at, and many people, I think including the current Senate president, have talked about bringing that issue back up. The governor had an initiative this year to try to find additional money for education. You may recall that there was really a two-pronged approach to the governor's suggestions that we could find a way to raise more revenue. One was transportation, the other was education, both K through 12 and higher education. The legislature chose to look at the transportation infrastructure as a primary need, and decided not to look at any kind of changes in the education funding for the current year anyway. The legislative sessions are 2-year cycles. They coincide with the election process, and so in the first year the bills are created and submitted, and by the time the end of the second year happens, hopefully all the bills have either been dealt with or eliminated. I'll stop there. I could go on.
No, you couldn't, really. Well, the bottom line is, as far as transportation is concerned, if we have to drive our buses to other new places, our fuel expense will go up.
Well, your cost
No
of
matter-
busing will go up.
Yes,
and-
exactly.
And that is not something that the state would recognize as a part of the cost
Right.
to educate in Easthampton.
Exactly.
We spend much less now than we once did for busing.
Right.
Because we have reduced the access to
Yes.
transportation to all students in the community. We also used to transport to the parochial schools in Easthampton.
I
and
remember-
so-
I know,
and So
yeah.
it depends, when you look at changes in transportation, it depends how far back you look.
Right. We
Because-
used to walk.
Yes, and we used to have 3 parochial schools that
Right.
we were responsible for transporting children to. And we don't have any of them anymore. We were also responsible for providing support for special education to those parochial schools. So depending on your depth of memory,
Yeah.
What goes around comes around, and what was once new is now old and new again. There are challenges every time something changes. I think you may be referring to the idea that there may be a charter school interested in locating here. There is a transportation requirement
Right.
associated with having a charter school. The particular location of that school really eliminates the possibility of anyone walking, because there are no sidewalks, and it's a heavily traveled industrial route. And so that really will drive, if that school does locate here, it really will drive additional costs of
Right,
transportation.
that's what I was.
I mentioned the only other large one, to be quite honest, is the cost of retiree health insurance.
Yes. Right.
The other amounts are nominal, and I'm not of the opinion that any of what we spend collectively to support education doesn't help children.
Right.
Because I really think that safely transporting the children to school is a part of the education process. But clearly, the people who are in charge of the rules and of the money don't believe that. Possibly it's because they see things from the point of view of a more urban area that has higher public transportation access and a lesser need for private busing. your point of view, I think, depends upon from where you're sitting and what you're looking at.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent?
That's
That's
the
it.
end of my report, yes.
Okay, matters for action. Our minutes from the July 23rd, 2013 regular session.
Motion to approve the minutes of the July 30th, 2013 school committee meeting?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain or no, any abstentions? Okay, minutes are approved as presented for the July 23rd meeting. Payroll? Warrants?
Okay. Move to approve the school payroll dated August 8th, 2013 in the amount of $282,820.39.
Second.
There has been a motion made and seconded to approve the payroll dated August 8th, 2013. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated August 8, 2013 in the amount of $49,559.57.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the accounts payable authorization dated August 8th, 2013 as presented signify by saying aye.
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 It is approved.
Okay, let's see here. Move to approve the school payroll dated August 22nd, 2013 in the amount of $261,977.07.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the school payroll dated August 22nd, 2013. All those in favor of the approval as read signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated August 22nd, 2013 in the amount of $74,962.99.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the accounts payable authorization dated August 22nd, 2013 as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Now, there's another one here, but it doesn't have the language for the motions. So are we to?
May I?
Yeah. Are we to make a motion on that one? I'm a little confused.
So we're all at a disadvantage without Sue Colby being here, that's
The aggregate.
for certain.
I think we can do the motion that they're, as sort of presented there.
Okay. So, let's see, move to approve the school payroll dated August 8th, 2013. Maybe it's part of that. Hang on 1 second.
Seems to read as though it's a cover sheet for the other
Yeah.
warrants that you have already been passed.
I actually think it is. I don't
You
think it
think it's
requires a separate motion.
Okay, so withdraw that
It's
Cancel that.
included in there.
in August
other
8th. Okay,
I think everyone's getting paid.
okay. Then that's it. For
Okay.
that.
I believe we have some handbook changes, Superintendent?
We do. We'll start with the high school handbook change, and I'll ask Vito Perone to come to the podium to think if you have any questions. You have that in your packet. The changes have been highlighted, and Vito, perhaps you could just say a few words about the changes in your handbook.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The lion's share of the changes in the handbook this year have to do with the change from building to building. So there's some that have to do with rules about carpets and and drinks in the carpeted areas. Not real significant changes. Some few changes have to do with the consistency of language between the program of studies and the handbook, so we wanted to make those things consistent and make sure that in the program of studies the same language was used in the handbook. So that is also in maroon. The one significant piece of change from our perspective has to do with changes for participation in extracurricular activities and sporting events. And I'd invite Mr. Sealander to come up with me right now. That is on page 19, I believe. And just so if you have any questions, I'm asking Jeff to come up also, just to, if there are any questions. The initial change happened in my first year as principal when John Apakowitz was the athletic director. And the change was made to make sure that we were being fair to fall sport athletes, winter and spring sport athletes. So we wanted to make a change to make things consistent. There was a possibility at that time for a summer school class taken by a student in July or in June to make them eligible for fall athletics if they failed a class in the spring. That same opportunity was not present for a student who failed in the fall or winter. So we made a change to make it consistent. We took out the opportunity for summer school to make you eligible for a fall sport. Mm-hmm. Now with was that a question or just?
No.
No, okay. Over this past year, we also made a change that allowed credit recovery during the school year. I'm sure you remember that because it was approved by this body. With that change made, there's now an opportunity for athletes from one sport to the next, one season to the next, I should say, I'm sorry, during the school year to take credit recovery and become eligible to play. So now we are going back, and again, for equity's sake, if a student takes summer school and credit recovery, they're able to remediate credit and become eligible for play in the fall sports, as are students during the school year. So for equity's sake, we're going back to the rule as it was. So there's an opportunity now for students to regain eligibility through credit recovery programs, whether they're done in the summer or they're done during the school year. So that's why we're kind of going back to a policy we had actually when Mr. Sealander was a principal and Mr. Apakowitz was the athletic director. So that's the most significant, again, from my perspective. There might be something that you've seen in your read that you have a question on, but that's the most significant piece. So if you have any questions about that, I just ask Mr. Sealander to join me up here.
I think the issue is, to put it simply, between semester 1 and semester 2 final grades. None of this impacts quarter grades. And being a no pass, no play policy, it's only for those situations where a student fails a course previously taken with a grade higher than a 50. Higher than a 50. So for those students who have passed either the second quarter or the fourth quarter, depending on the semester, and have a final grade that may be attributed to a final exam or to the first or third quarter grades that bring that to the range between a 50 and 60. This allows those students to take the summer school program, the credit recovery program, and then should they pass those and regain credit for that course, it allows them eligibility for the season of play following the completion of their credit recovery. And this is also in alignment with the MIA policies.
Do I take it then that this would allow, just hypothetically, that this would allow some students to now be eligible to play who may not have been eligible, let's say, last year before this
Yes.
went into effect?
If they took the summer school.
Right, but
yes,
it now,
if they,
yeah,
exactly.
but it now allows that.
Yeah. It's a nice incentive for them to actually go back and recover the credit.
And that's why it had previously been in place. The concern, or the issue really was the inequity between semester 1 and semester 2. Now through the efforts of the school department and the high school, students have the opportunity to recover credit at the end of semester 1. You know, they have to go to the reunion center, it has to be after school, it has to be on their own time, much like they have to do for the summer school program. It's outside of school hours and on their own time.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve the Easthampton High School handbook.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve the Easthampton High School handbook. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Do you think I'll make the team now?
No doubt in my mind.
We gotta look at your quarterback.
We need a linebacker.
I immediately pictured her in a football helmet.
All right. Is there another, there's
Yes,
another handbook?
White Brick Middle School.
We don't have any changes to our handbook other than just administrative updating the staff list, the school calendar, and the index to for the changes that the district put out, the non-discrimination, the acceptable use policy, which was updated by the district, the student harassment policy, student records, sexual harassment, bullying prevention, and concussion policy, all through the district. Those are the same ones that are going at each school. We don't have any other updates.
Okay. Any questions?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
Move to approve the updated handbook for the White Brook Middle School.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the White Brook Middle School handbook signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? It's approved.
And now the elementary handbook.
Those little first graders get a handbook?
They certainly do.
And they have
Big
to
one,
sign a
too.
paper saying that they've looked at it and everything. Again, as Meredith said, we have a few changes to our staff, our new staff. The only real change in the verbiage was around the section on discipline on page 14. We just reworded it so that it fit with what we're trying to do with our positive behavior program. So it uses that language. Other than that, the other changes are all the same policies that Meredith has just referred to.
Okay.
Are we doing this again with the keychains this year too?
Yes, we are.
What is that?
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, I don't want to take over on it. It's a
Okay.
great. Every month they earn through good behavior. They are able to earn a
right.
themed
Charm.
keychain. It was an amazing motivator for my kid's class. He's looking forward to it.
Okay.
Great for them.
Motion?
Move to approve the elementary school handbook.
Second?
All those in favor of approving the elementary school handbook signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Should we? This is the Maple handbook. It's a separate handbook for Center Pepin, yes?
It's
No, it's the same.
elementary
Same,
wide.
same.
Sorry, my mistake.
All right, thank you. Well, I think that does the handbooks.
It does.
And we have school choice opening.
Motion to approve the request for 2 slots at Maple School grade 3.
Second?
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the school choice opening at Maple School grade 3, 2 slots, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved.
Move to accept the school choice opening request for 1 slot at White Brook Middle School in grade 5.
Second?
All those in favor of approving the open slot at White Brick Middle School, grade 5, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is approved.
That's so funny.
It's like a long
Been
goodbye.
waiting to hear.
The crowds have thinned.
Mhm.
All right, a request for computer equipment to be declared surplus.
Move to accept the request for computer equipment to be declared surplus.
Second?
Is there a list?
It's at the end of the elementary handbook.
It's a.
It is.
it's
If
in
you
a-
scroll all the way to the
Yes.
end, those pages are attached.
Yes.
All right, so if I could just ask that the motion reference the list.
Who did the
So
motion?
if,
Regarding the listed computer equipment.
regarding the list.
Amendment.
Okay, including old CPUs, CRT monitors, printers, network equipment, and other related items.
Seconded?
Yes?
Do these end up in Mike's office tomorrow?
What happens to surplus
Fortunately,
equipment?
no. So this is primarily, and I'm asking, but I think I understand. This is primarily the equipment and materials that were in storage at Parsons.
Yes, in the letter actually does say that, yes.
Do you want me to read that letter for you?
Well, not for me, I just want to make sure that the minutes reflect that there was a list. The disposal requires an itemized listing of what's being disposed of. We use it by serial number, but I'm certain that given the level of materials there,
Apple
that,
IIe's.
yeah, and having serial numbers for all those would have been a lot of effort for no real
Yeah.
The
value.
letter does say East Coast Recovery will dispose of the items at no cost to the district.
Yeah, they're going through a recycler.
Yeah.
That's so that they wipe the hard drives,
Right.
We beat them to death at the
I guess.
All those in favor of the motion to declare the listed computer equipment surplus signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? It is surplus. Whitebrook Middle School gift account for Scholastic Magazine request.
Motion to approve the creation of a gift account be open to provide a place to deposit funds which will be raised through student payments to help offset the cost of Scholastic magazines used as teaching tools throughout the school year.
Second.
Any discussion? There is a motion to create an account for Scholastic, for surplus.
No, to open a
No.
gift account.
To open a gift account.
To-
Sorry, open a gift account to offset the cost of Scholastic magazines at Whitebrook Middle School. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Motion to
I
adjourn.
believe there's one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning?